Bigfoot Radio. You're here with your hostess, Lauren Smith, and tonight we have Jonathan Easley from Western Bigfoot Exploration on here. He just recently got back from a very exciting trip that we're going to talk about. And I don't know if you guys have heard about the Colorado sighting. He has some information on that as well that we're going to chat about. In the chat, it is jumping tonight, so I'm going to put it on the screen for everyone because we're probably going to be referring to the chat quite a bit, and I want everybody on YouTube to be able to see that. So, without further ado, you guys make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, drop a comment, what you think, and keep above all, don't give my moderators something to do tonight. All right, they're always bored every show. Let's keep it that way. And if you have a question for the guest, type it in all caps. All right. How you doing tonight, Jonathan?
So far, so good. Can't complain. Happy to be on.
Well, I'm happy to have you. I know that I've been trying to get you on for a little while now, so thank you for being willing to come on tonight.
Yeah.
And I know that we were waiting until after your trip, and so you're back. You're back from your trip.
In one piece with no broken bones. Yeah. Which is kind of
the fact that you made it
spectacular
back.
to be able to say after what we did. So
I feel like, yeah, exactly. I feel like the fact that you made it back is a big achievement because the people that you went with, while amazing, a few of them might have a tendency to get you lost, you know.
Yeah. One in particular.
Not naming any names, Tate Hieronymus. So we are, oh my gosh, and so it starts. Your first question of the night. Has Jonathan been out with Chris Spencer?
No, have not been out with Chris Spencer, but in this whole Bigfoot community, you talk to these people through Messenger and email, and you actually do work together, and they might review something that you recorded. So you feel like sometimes you forget that you haven't camped or ever met these people, but they feel
right.
like close friends of yours. It's so weird. So last year I did send him a vocal that was recorded by a guy that was literally shoulder to shoulder to me that we both heard. And he got back to me with that info, saying what he thinks about it. And but other than that, he and I have communicated, but never camped together. Haven't had the privilege yet.
Yeah. So that is Todd Hale's standard question. He asks it every time he's ever chimed into my chat. That is his standard question. So you have been blessed by Todd Hale's standard question. You're welcome. All right. So I'm going to briefly have you go over what got you started in the Bigfoot field, in the phenomena of the Squatch.
Well, as a kid, I was always that weird kid that liked to watch X-Files when he was too young to be watching that.
Yeah.
And I got into camping, hiking, and all that in the latter years of my life so far. And it just started hitting me that out of all the weird things that are kind of out there, Bigfoot's probably the one that's most possible to exist. And this all stemmed from once I started hiking and backpacking again, having thought I saw something at the corner of my eye in Sequoia and going, oh my gosh, what if these things are out there? What's the probability? Then you go down this internet wormhole of all the crazy people, and you spend a couple years kind of weeding out the people you think are legit and the people that are just absolutely crazy. Because believe it or not, Bigfoot brings out the absolute craziest people you will ever meet in your life. It also brings out some of the most intelligent. So you got to kind of find who's doing what, where, and who they're of. And then anyway, and then I ended up here.
Okay. So what made you start getting out in the field and just, starting your YouTube channel? And basically, I'm one of those people that I love educators. I love the people that they don't just start the channel to say, hey, I'm going to go hike and you can follow along, but the people that are sharing all of their evidence, their tactics, educating others on it. And you seem to be one of those people. I've watched quite a few of your videos, and I love them because you share your adventures, which is amazing, but you're sharing also your tactics, your research. What made you start all that?
Well, when I started, backpacking and hiking a lot, I noticed that, a lot of the Bigfoot community maybe is not as active into backpacking and hiking as I was. Mm-hmm. So I might have tried some things that they didn't do, go off in places where, 5 to 10 miles of hiking, and then trying to do all those tactics that you see on Finding Bigfoot out there. Started off with that. But I was in Sequoia in this place, right? And there was this law enforcement ranger, and we kind of struck up this conversation out in the middle of nowhere about Bigfoot. And he goes, "You're not gonna believe this," and he starts showing me these pictures, and it's this it looks like a trackway. And this is very early when I started, so I wasn't like, I didn't follow it up maybe like I should have. But it just hit me like this trackway looked really real. And it was from a law enforcement officer. It was a lot of outdoor experience. And I started kind of looking for those type of people out in the woods, law enforcement. I talked to a professor down in Porterville. It was a teacher at the community college. He had a sighting. And it started to hit me like, there's a lot of crazy people out there, but there's also a lot of people that are very, very legitimate and maybe didn't intend to have these encounters or stories. And I always wanted to tell those people's stories to everybody. There's too many crazy stories with like a lot of nonsense, but there's these real, very, very real stories. And I wanted to tell those. And it took me a few years to go, you know what? I should start a YouTube channel and make kind of cinematic videos that people can watch.
Mm-hmm.
And have those people included and highlight those stories, so more people get to see them.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. It's much needed. And, something that I tell people, it's because everyone's like, oh, Bigfoot. Like I had a client today and I mentioned my podcast and she did oh, that's nice, and I just wanted to add this is, it was like awkward. And I was like, well, what I tell people is it's the 6 degrees of Bigfoot. If you mention Bigfoot to someone, literally never fails, they're gonna be like, oh, you know what, my cousin's sister's boyfriend had a sighting and he saw one and he swears it was a Bigfoot. And you just, especially after Finding Bigfoot came out so many years ago, it got easier to talk about. And now you have the crazies, you have the ones that are just, they look at a picture of a wood line and they see 20 Bigfoot. You have the ones that can see them interdimensionally and whatever have you, but
coming out of a portal or whatever. I've heard it all.
But you also have the ones who, like you said, are law enforcement, are doctors. We have a chiropractor here in Tulsa who is a Bigfoot researcher. And he actually, I think, just spoke at the Hanobi conference. I believe it's the same man. It's just, it's amazing. So yeah, I think it's awesome that you found so many legitimate people to share their story.
Yeah. And, as far as like techniques and stuff go, I'm out there just like anybody else, just trying new stuff. I think everyone's tried both like the most basic to the most ridiculous of things.
Yes.
And I like to share what we do, like so far on my channel, I haven't shared some of the crazy stuff we've done. But I was out there this summer with Tate and Ron Reed, Tate Hieronymus and Ron Reed. They were blasting this laser light show onto the tree with loud music. And I just thought that was so different, things like that, like crazy stuff. And believe it or not, people have had some sort of success with that, something that's completely different than what these creatures have seen.
I've heard of people doing that, shining the different lights, the light you can use that it puts just dots on everything. I've seen people use that. I've seen people do drums, of course, I recently experienced a group of people that they shroomed and researched Bigfoot so that they could connect to them.
Were you on a higher plane? Group, Lauren? Was that?
No, but I was very supportive of them doing that because I wanted to know if it worked. I'm like, I may not participate in every technique that someone uses, but I would like to follow up and find out if it worked. I mean,
wouldn't that be awful if that was a thing that worked? Like if these people took, and it turns out that that's exactly how you find Bigfoot. And if you want to see him, that's what you have to do.
Like you have to shroom until you leave your body and then you can meet Bigfoot.
The Jack Black moment.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, I mean, whoever wants to try it, just be safe and document the hell out of your process. Yeah, let me know. Okay, so Bigfoot Society, Jeremiah Byron said, question, what is your favorite piece of Bigfoot evidence from the last 10 years?
Oh, well, I think he's setting up my last video that I put out,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's the best evidence in the last 10 years. If you go back, I got this latest video. It features a guy named Todd Samples and his friend Doug Chaz, and they had another friend with them that day. So it was three gentlemen that drove up what's called the Go Road in Humboldt County. So this is the road. It's a long paved road that you take forever to get to these locations like the Patterson Gimlin Filmsite, Louse Camp, all those old Bigfoot places that are up there. And they were driving up the Go Road just to see Doug Che. Tate's correcting me there. Sorry, Doug, if you're out there. But
You had one
so
job.
they're driving up this paved road, and you drive into the 10-mile marker, which is way, way, way out. It's already an isolated place as it is, Willow Creek, that area. And driving up that Go Road, you just get way out there. And they were driving up as far as they could, and they came up to the 10-mile marker. And when they got out of the car, they noticed this fresh track line of footprints. Well, they figured out it's probably a guy's, and they started walking up going, you know what, guys, there's toes in this. And the more steps they took, they started to see some clearer and clearer prints. You can see all kinds of details in these footprints. Now, they're not your avid researchers, so they didn't do things like try and take a cast or even take as many pictures as they could. They kind of took this quick video and took a few pictures. They did break out a tape measure toward the end, and they measured that the tracks were between like I believe they were 12 inches in the snow, so maybe give or take an inch, who knows. But if you look at the pictures in the video, I presented all their speech about it, all their opinion about it. I didn't interject anything of mine. And you can see, I mean, it looks like a great trackway. I mean, there's things like the stride opening up as it went downhill to be almost 8 feet. Although to me, it looked about maybe 6 feet. You know, that's like, I don't see how a human can take that long a stride going on a downhill area. Like these guys were almost sliding down on their butts. And this thing was, you could see the steps going down. And it was fresh snow. No one else had been there. So I think that might be the greatest evidence in the past 10 years.
Okay. I think that's a great answer. I've seen some stuff that definitely got me excited. You know, but there's, you know, the Patty film, obviously for me is like our greatest piece of evidence, but he did limit it to 10 years because JB.
Yeah, I know. He got us with that one.
JB likes to make you have to dig deep and think about it.
I know, man.
That's why he's so good at what he do. All right. This dude wants to talk about the video out of Colorado. So.
All right. Well, that's been going around. Have you ran into it yet, Lauren?
I did. It's been all through my feed. Anytime anything comes out with a sighting, it's like all through my feed, Facebook, Instagram, and then it's sent to me 35,000 times. You know, my great aunt Gertrude is sending it. You know, I don't have a great aunt Gertrude, but if I did, she would be sending me anything related to Bigfoot. So
well, yeah,
I've seen it. I've seen the still shots. I think Todd Gatewood maybe he had already stabilized it and sent a still frame on his page. And I'll let you talk. It's, you know.
So I'm not the only one that did this, but I contacted the lady named Shannon. Really nice lady, by the way. She answered right back to my text. I sent her this big old message. You know, I'm Jonathan. Yeah. You have to like look like you're not crazy, so they answer you. And she ended up telling me kind of how it went down. And I also kind of clicked on her. If you go to like their pages are public. So if you click on, I guess, the guy's page, you can see him explaining to his friends. And it's the same account that she had. Only 4 people total on that entire train saw this thing, according to them. And they were the 4 people in the very back. And the only reason it was spotted was because they were looking for elk on the mountainsides. Okay. And they had spotted this thing starting to walk. And there was a gentleman next to them that started filming it. So that's his video. Okay. And then this lady's husband, who I communicated with, he was kind of guiding her like, it's over here. And she ended up taking some still shots. The still shots were hers, you know?
Okay.
They're totally genuine. Like I 100% believe that they were just looking out off the train and they saw what they saw. Whether it's real or not, I can't
Yeah.
say, but I will 110% say that they weren't involved in it. They
Yeah.
look like they're not into the subject. It's not their
Yeah.
thing. They were just on a train ride, happened to get this picture. Now that said, I don't know if you saw the other pictures kind of circulating. Yeah, there's like a
Yeah.
Bigfoot in the town of Silverton, their advertisements.
Yeah.
And the suit looks, is it the same one? I don't know. I don't think so, but it looks similar.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did put
Yeah.
a Bigfoot in there. And then if you do look at the zoomed in and kind of stabilized shots,
Mhm.
it does look very
Yeah.
baggy. But as far as those people being involved in some kind of a hoax, you could rule that out. They're
Yeah.
pretty genuine. They're just people that recorded it and kind of put it out there. And then the Daily Mail and all these big,
Yeah.
big old newspapers picked it up, I guess. So that's why we're seeing it
Well,
everywhere.
I'm glad that you reached out to her, and thank you for sharing what you gathered on from them. That obviously they were not part of it. They witnessed it, which means they may have been part of a hoax, but not.
Mm-hmm.
They were the unwitting victims, not the perpetrator.
Yeah, and she's even like,
Words.
let me know what I got what you're trying to say.
Yeah, words
And-
are great. I don't have any of them tonight, apparently, but I think I looked at it and the hair is awfully high. So
Mhm.
Mr. Bigfoot has a pompadour, it looks like. And then
Yeah,
he's
I
very
know.
shiny. He's got like the Fabio Pantene Pro V commercial hair going on, which he
Mhm.
could. Bigfoot in Colorado could have a healthy diet of elk and whatever and have beautiful, luscious locks. To me, it really did look like a suit. And I think that it would be a great way to hoax somebody if you posted up next to a train track in a suit and walked and then sat down like, oh, you didn't see me, But
Yeah.
but I'm glad that you followed
And
up with them to make sure that
one
they
thing
didn't.
that she says, what she doesn't think it's, although she's open to it, she's not like totally against it. She's just like, I don't know, guys, give me more info to convince me otherwise, because she's like, why would someone be out that far? Like, we wouldn't have seen him. But, devil's advocate would say maybe they messed up. They went too far. What they thought was, up close and that the whole train would see turned out to be only 4 people that were looking hard at it. So I think they messed up a hoax.
Yeah. Great mountain air and sunshine do wonders for the hair, according to Alex. So there we go.
Know.
Yep. I agreed before I heard what you said.
He's got that wavy type deal where he has to go like this when he talks to you. So.
Oh my God, I can't. Okay, so yeah, I've seen a few comparison memes of Bigfoot costumes next to the still frames from that video. So, we may never know unless somebody comes out to it. But I think I have not seen video in recent years at all that has seemed real to me, that has been like, oh my God, now that's compelling. I haven't.
No, I'm in the same boat. It's all disheartening and sad.
It is very disheartening because people, it's passed around and they're like, that one's for sure a Bigfoot. And I'm like, that one, it walks like a man, or it has a suit on, or just whatever. There's just things that you can pick out in the video and you're just like, that's not it. I would love for it to be it. That's the thing, is like, I would love for every video sent to me to be actual, like, this is it, no doubt. But unfortunately, no. Tate, you little surface pooper, just stop it. Just stop it. Does Kip know that we're having a show tonight and his name will be mentioned? I feel like someone should message him. I turned into Sean Connery. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to hear about your recent trip with the boys listed on the screen here.
Yeah, so I was with Tate, Ron Reed, Kip Morrill, and a guy named Glenn was going to join us when we got to a certain checkpoint, and he's the smartest one out of all of us, because we never got to that checkpoint. What we tried to do is hike from the Bluff Creek Bridge, which is Highway 96. And what you do is, that's where everyone has their Bluff Creek sign picture. So you see everybody. And well, under that bridge, that's where Bluff Creek spills into the Klamath. And I say Bluff Creek, it's like Bluff River because there's so many drainages that drain into it that by the time it gets there, it's like a full-blown river. It's just boulders and I mean, there's nowhere to walk. And you wouldn't know that unless you tried it. So we were like, well, let's be the ones that try it, and see how far we make it. We did have an expectation to make it up to a certain point, and that trail just kicked our butts. Like, I mean, it was literally like crossing waist deep in water several times, and the current was really strong. And we're taking also Ron brought his dog, his adventure dog, who comes with us everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got that dog up there a mile too, and he did great actually. I think he did the best out of all of us. But it was like waist deep water, the current trying to take you down. I got like $4,000, $5,000 worth of dollars worth of camera gear on my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
My camera's not cheap.
Yep.
I didn't eat it. Luckily, I think I'm the only one that didn't eat it at one point. But yeah, it was just boulders that everybody scuffed and scraped up. I don't know how we didn't, break a bone or something like that. But I do believe that we're probably the people that have last been that far up Bluff Creek because we saw zero signs of humans, and we haven't even heard. We ran into an old gold mining operation there. Could have been silver. I don't know. Some mining operation up there with the sluice boxes, and it's all blown away. And who knows the last time that's seen that? There's no information on it. So yeah, we got ourselves in a pretty sticky situation. Cool adventure. And then had an emergency camp on the side of a little beach. That hike kicked our names and took our booties, says Tate Hieronymus. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we emergency camped on this little tiny slab of beach, which was the only place that we could have possibly camped.
Yeah.
And then we hiked on back. So yeah, we went on a pretty crazy adventure and just barely survived.
That's crazy. That's why I said at the very beginning that I'm glad you made it back in general, because it's from what I saw on Instagram that was posted, and then from what you told me, it's just that one was rough on you guys. And I know like Kip, for instance, like he's been there a million times, and I believe Tate's been there a ton. You've been there a lot. And so just, see, Kip said he cried himself to sleep that night.
Yeah, Kip actually slept on a rock, like where the river was coming by, kind of. And he slept on this small boulder that actually like protruded into the river a little bit. So if he would have like dozed off and rolled over either way,
oh my goodness,
he would have gone down the. Maybe he would have floated back to the trailhead. Who knows? I don't know.
Has anyone done a study on everyone that's ever camped with Tate and the things that have happened that weren't safe? Has anyone done like compared notes on that, and like maybe just throwing that out there?
There's nothing that you can document and show to other people. It's all like inappropriate.
Because the last time I had Tate on, we learned so much about what camping with Tate is like.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So I'm hoping that he's yes. I'm just wondering. It's for science, Tate. It's for science, okay? And possibly other people's lives may depend on the answers to these questions. All right. Mm-hmm. Yep. So Kip is with us. I always feel like I'm leading a seance when I say that, like Kip is with us now. So yeah. So so did you guys have any activity during your camp out that was,
we didn't
worth telling
and
about?
In this particular canyon in Bluff Creek, it's amazing. Like you look up and the canyon is just like a straight wall in front of you. I mean, it goes up, I don't know, maybe 500-600 feet. So we don't even know how some wildlife can make it into that canyon. As a matter of fact, we stopped seeing footprints really soon in that hike. We did go to other places. We camped at it's called the South Side above the Patterson-Gimlin Filmsite. We went down to the Patterson-Gimlin Filmsite, hiked all around. We didn't have any activity this entire trip, which is unfortunate because the past couple years we've had little things happen here and there. Not little things, I guess, by Bigfoot standards, because usually nothing happening is the norm. But we had some,
Yes.
we did have some neat stuff happen the past couple years in this particular area that we go to, from footprint finds, what we think was a trackway.
Mhm.
We pulled all this hair off of a certain tree in a place called Laird Meadow. Laird Meadow has
Mm.
some historical significance because it's where Roger Patterson actually cast a footprint,
Okay.
1963, I think. So he's got this big old footprint, which they think is the same individual that Jerry Crew casted. So
That's
it's kind of neat.
crazy.
And
Tell me about the hair.
okay, so we pulled hair samples off this one tree that had this big snap on the top of it. And we've been to this place before. We've been to Laird Meadow, but this time we noticed the top of the tree was snapped right in the middle of the meadow. So we walked out there and noticed it was covered in all this hair. So we had never really collected hair. So we tried our best to do it safely as possible and not
Mhm.
get it contaminated, you know,
Right.
not knowing that DNA studies cost like $4,000 or $5,000 anyway. So we ain't going to do that. But we collected a bunch of hair, and our buddy Damon reached a little bit higher than we did, and he collected hair as well. The hair that he collected was about maybe 4 or 5 inches long. The hairs that we collected were a little bit smaller and kind of curly. We took those to the North American Bigfoot Center and met with Cliff, and he took a look at them, and he showed us right off the bat, you know, when the hairs are squiggly like this, they're usually bear.
Mhm.
We took a look, and they were bear.
Okay.
Damon went the next day with the hair off the same tree, but much higher. And they start running it through the microscope, and they're like, you got to see this. It looks just like the hair that they have on display that was collected, oh boy, by Tom Shea, I think it was. Um, he picked up off of a Bigfoot trackway. He saw a Bigfoot walking. He picked up the hair. They look at the hair; it has no medulla, then it's tapered, and
Mhm.
typical Sasquatch hair that they find every great once in a while. Um, so yeah, I mean, the group that we were with pulled this random mystery hair that people haven't been able to identify. It's in like Dr. Meldrum's book. It'll show you a nice
Mhm.
graph of those, show you nice pictures. It's that
That's
one with no
awesome.
medulla that's unidentifiable.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good piece of evidence. I know, we can get tracks and everything, but I feel like physical, scientific evidence that we can study and look at, and I think that's phenomenal. That's a good find. I
Yeah,
bet you
yeah.
guys were
Well, it's
so
not
stoked.
why they can't say this is a Bigfoot hair. You know, it's still like it's still a question to science. Like, you found a hair that science has yet to explain.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
that's
neat.
amazing. I mean, I just we're closer every day. Every time you guys go out, every time a researcher gets something, we're closer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
oh my god, can we? When is Kip really moving to Washington? That whole post today about killed me on Facebook.
But it rains a
I
lot there, he
It rains a
says.
lot there, and why
They
did nobody
say.
tell him
They say.
that? Oh my gosh. All right, so can you tell me a little bit about your methods when you go out, whether it's on an expedition or just even just a day research? I don't know if you do day hikes or anything, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything I do is just theory based on stuff that I've heard, the things that maybe I believe. You talk to a certain researcher that something worked for them, and you kind of have faith in that researcher, and
mhm.
you'll do the same thing, and maybe it works for you. But you know, a few examples. Um, you know, I like using the knock technique. I'm big on that. Like, you know, I've talked to Robert Laderman. He made a point years ago that I think Tate touched on this show, that if you do a vocalization, you know, and they might recognize that vocal, they might say that's not my cousin Eddie up there or whatever, you know. But if you do a knock, all knocks are going to kind of sound the same. So
Mhm.
I am a big believer in like staying away from the use of any vocalizations up until kind of you're, I guess, all done with if you're not getting anything at all.
Yeah.
In Laird Meadow one year, we heard, it was myself, Alex Petikoff, Eli Watson. They were filming for Small Town Monsters. Tate and Ron was up in a group that went up the road, and we had parked at this same place, Laird Meadow, and we started doing sporadic like knocks every like half hour or so. And it wasn't until we were all spread out in this meadow, right, hiding in the bushes. And it wasn't until somebody from the group down the road did a vocalization that all of a sudden it was like if all hell kind of broke loose. It was like what sounded like a branch being thrown right before there was this big champagne bottle sound that you can hear on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't think of what it was. It doesn't sound like a piece of wood, but it might be. It's just this big bloop, and it was so loud. Like, I mean, things, you know how things
Mm.
on an audio recorder pick up really quietly. I mean, this
Yeah.
was loud. Like this blasted through the meadow, that stick branch throw, and then that
Mm-hmm.
big champagne bottle sound. And in the next few minutes, we heard knocks, loud knocks down the way down the trail, knocks behind us. And I mean, we heard knocks that night. I want to say, I might say 50 yards away. There was one point where I said, I can literally hear the bark split on the tree. You know,
Yeah.
it was that close. So, yeah, that was a pretty crazy night. So, do they knock on trees? I think they do. I think I
Yeah.
heard what I heard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I'm big on that.
So what do you think the knocks mean? Because I know that in different areas they can mean different things. Over the years, like my mom and I, we've noticed that when we would enter the woods, we would hear two knocks, and then when we left the woods, we would hear two knocks. And so it was almost like a sentry letting someone
Mm.
know, hey, a human's in the woods, and then hey, a human's out. And so we personally don't knock because it's alerting them that a human's in the woods. Not that they don't know anyway, but that's where we are here in the South, in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas area. We don't
Mhm.
knock for that reason. So have you found, or do you have a theory as to what the knocks mean in your areas?
Based on what I've experienced, I think that it's some kind of, hey, I'm over here, like a locating device. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're spread out. This is what I think happened. I think we pulled up in the trucks and they spread
Mm-hmm.
out. We hid in the bushes and they were still spread out all over the place. And maybe they moved in different directions. And the knocks were kind of letting each other know where they are. What better way to do that too? Like even as
Yeah.
humans, if we're on one side or the other side of like a dark meadow, we can
Yeah.
almost, and we know that we're knocking to each other. You know, it'd be like yelling hey to each other. I mean, it's something that we recognize, and if they're
Right.
recognizing that, they can hear that for long ways, as loud as it
Right.
was. So I don't know. That's what I think. I think it's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm over here.
Yeah. So then what is your thoughts on rock clacking, or have you ever witnessed rock clacking?
Okay, so not rock clacking, but I did experience another sound that people might affiliate to either rock clacking. I don't know. This is what I heard. I was in the northern Sierra Nevada mountains, and we were camped out. It was an expedition where a few people in that group had had activity going on for the last few years in that area, and they were trying out a new spot. And we did a bunch of vocalizations. We had this coyote caller thing going on all night, just blasting, to try to elicit something to come in according to them. Night came, I went in my tent, and just as I'm dozing off, I hear this like pop sound. And I start going, well, that was weird, but it could have been one of a million things in the forest. I start dozing off again, and I hear it once more. And I was to the point where I was staying up, just listening and listening, and I can hear the sound going off, and I can hear it moving around, closer, farther away. And I mean, it's going every 2 to 3 minutes, to the point where I got out of my tent kind of mad because it's not letting me sleep. Now, at this
Mm-hmm.
point, I'm like, it's just a weird sound. I wasn't saying it's Bigfoot or something. And I
Yeah.
shined my light around. I didn't see anything. But then I started hearing it. And I'm going to say the last few times I heard it, I started going, that's weird. It doesn't sound, almost sounds like lips smacking. But there's some sort of extracurricular sound to it, like a cluck kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to Daryl Collier one time on a podcast, and he starts talking about how they do throat clucks. That's what he
Mm-hmm.
said, throat clucks. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that's the sound that I'm looking for,
Yeah.
or pop clucks. He said the word clucks. It almost sounded like a chicken's cluck with a pop in it. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I had been hearing in the Sierra Nevadas, and I remember it as clear as day.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's a different sound that I've heard personally. So I've heard I've heard that, and I've heard these weird popping noises. So
Yeah.
I don't know about rock clacking though, but I've heard people talk about it a lot.
I've witnessed the rock clacking. It's a big thing down here, especially where I camp. I hear it all the time. It just there's no other. There's different kinds, but there's just nothing like it that you can mimic in nature. Because you get, where you can hear the rocks hitting each other like this, or you can hear where it sounds like they literally lifted a boulder and threw it down on another boulder. Just there's a lot of different noises that come with it. The tree knocks, again, like we find that we only hear them when we enter or leave the woods. Like we really don't hear them other than that. We will hear bird calls that don't make any sense. And at night especially, we'll hear different birds that aren't really supposed to make noise at night, and so we hear those a lot, and we think that they may be locator calls as well. But yeah, the rock clacking, mouth pops, I've heard a lot of mouth pops. My old co-host Dustin Clark, he used to could do this. It was this, I can't even do it, but this
that sounds weird to
it's mouth pop. He could do it so well, and so he would do it when we'd go out and research, and it was phenomenal. Like it was a good pop. I just don't think that the species in our area, I don't think that's a thing that they do.
I see.
But my mother has she has experienced ground thumping. And now that is something that would terrify me, if you're out there and it just boom, boom, or chest thumping is another thing that you hear. It's that deep thump that you hear. So
I see. Yeah. The rock clacking, it's weird because I do know people that have experienced that rock clacking in different places like Humboldt. There was a big group of guys, including Robert Laderman, who told me the story that they heard this thing walk all the way up the valley, and it was doing this, clap or rock clack, and it's just clack, 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 and in the stretch of maybe a half a mile, they heard it 64 times.
Oh my
gosh! And then
gosh.
recently up in Washington, some gentlemen recorded some claps just like that.
Yeah.
So it's under the same circumstance, people in their tents and this sound of clapping kind of walking by.
Yeah.
So
and
it could be
that's,
like they all thought maybe an adult looking for a little one, and that's how they're kind of calling them, let them know where they are.
Because I know there are animals that break open different things with rocks. And so if you're in that area, that's something to consider. But if it's clapping and moving, it's probably not an otter breaking open a shell or something, or whatever. But I think it's the rock clacking. That one's a mystery to me. It's just, I've heard it so much and I still don't understand what it means unless it's replacing a knock in our area. I have no idea. Hold on, let me see if there's some questions in here somewhere. Probably not. Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on in the chat.
Busy.
They are busy, which I love. You were supposed to wear sunglasses. I don't. Tate gave you one job.
I couldn't find him.
So, let's see. I had another question for you, and I cannot remember what it was. It wasn't about the clacking. I don't remember what it was. I will think of it, and I will get back to you.
It will come to you.
It will come to me. What is the most compelling witness encounter that you've heard so far?
Okay, I've heard a few. Oh boy, one of my favorite ones. Did you ask most compelling?
Yes.
Okay, I met this professor. I was at a Big Five, and I was in Porterville, California. And if you're familiar with that, man, it's kind of like the hood. But just above Porterville, there are those. There's a Tule Indian tribe, and in the Tule Indian tribe reservation are the big boulders with the Bigfoot, the hairy man pictographs. Okay. I haven't been to those, right? But I've been in the mountains way above there.
Okay.
And I was down in Porterville exiting a Big Five, and there was a guy that noticed this Bigfoot sticker on me. And he kind of looked over, did that double take, Then he walks over. He goes, "Oh, you into Bigfoot?" And I go, "Yeah." And he's like, "Huh." And he kind of did this pause. I was like, almost like an invitation. I go, "What do you know? What do you interested in that too?" He goes, and he starts shaking his head, kind of reluctantly starts telling me this story. He goes, "I happened to see one a few years ago." I go, "Well, what happened?" He says, "Well, he was working at the time," he said, "as a substitute." And he said that what he saw was he was on a dirt road above the Tule Indian Reservation. That's in the southernmost section of the Sequoia National Forest, not Sequoia National Park, Sequoia National Forest. That's more to the south. And he was on this dirt road coming down, and he saw something come off the hillside. It looked like it was on all fours, like a bear running downhill at full speed. He says it jumped onto the road. Its hands hit the road, and he said hands hit the road.
Hands.
Then its feet met up with its hands. Then it stood up on 2 feet and kept running down the mountain. So it ran down the road in front of him, crossed the road, and then ran down. So it almost like caught itself with its front hands, like moving fast. And I don't know, the guy seemed totally, completely sane.
Yeah.
And was almost like embarrassed to tell his story. Didn't ask for anything. Insane. And I just thought, man, this guy, he's got to be telling the truth. I mean, there's no way. He didn't ask for anything. Didn't know I have a YouTube channel. Didn't ask any of that. So I don't know. That was a pretty compelling one. Kind of fell out of the blue.
That's crazy. That is very compelling. Like that would be amazing to get a witness encounter like that. To have that experience would be phenomenal. I want my first experience like that to be from a moving vehicle where you can see it safe. And then and then drive away and be like, "Oh, did you see that? Whoa!"
It's gonna happen when it shakes your tent at night, though.
Exactly. I've had so many experiences recently, even to where I heard this was recently. I had something walking around my tent. And there was one on either side of my tent. One had come up the creek, one had come down the ridge. They're walking around. I can hear them touching things and bipedal footsteps. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Lauren, all you have to do is sit up and turn on your headlamp and you will see a Bigfoot. Yeah, you will do this." And I kept laying there and I'm like, "Lauren, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You've got this." Yeah. And I laid there and I couldn't do it. And so this is the kind of researcher I learned that I am. My boyfriend was in the tent with me and my kids, and he had to go to the bathroom. And so he leaves the tent to go to the bathroom. Now, did I tell him that there was something walking out there? No. Did I plan it that way so that he would have a sighting and then I could interrogate him about his witness encounter? Yes. I planned ahead like a good researcher does. And I let him go out to have his encounter because I'm so kind. He did not have an encounter, and he was quite upset with me that I did not warn him that there was, bipedal
You're the one that
monsters.
You're the one that takes like a chubby friend hiking in case of a bear attack.
Yeah, and then you trip them and then you run away,
You don't have to outrun the bear, you just outrun them.
You just have to outrun the slowest person. Goodness. Yeah. But I'm bad. I'm terrible. But I knew if I sat up, I would have that sighting. I really knew it in my bones, but I just could not make myself do it. And
how much do you regret it?
I do. I regret it, but I also remember what I was feeling in that moment. And it was kind of this like full body lockdown feeling. Like I literally could not make myself reach out and grab my light. I wasn't scared in that moment, but I knew that if I turned my light on and saw that, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. That's all it was.
You were ready. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I just feel like, man, I guess I had this experience in 2015, and I want to say I regret it every single day. I'm actually like, I get mad about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if I saw another one and didn't record it, I can't tell you how mad I would be at myself. I'm serious about that. Like, I'd be so mad.
I get it. Every Bigfoot researcher, we're adrenaline junkies, right? So that's every Bigfoot researcher, you're an adrenaline junkie. And so you hear something moving in the woods and you want to run off in the woods and you're like, no, nope, can't do it. And then when you leave the woods and come back, you're like, I should have done it. I should have
Yeah.
done it. I would have seen it. But so most of the time I do regret it. This one, I'm just, but anyway, tell me about your experience.
Yeah. No, I was in 2015. It's actually Northern Sierra Nevada mountains. And this is the same instance I was talking a little bit ago where I heard those pops. This is actually 3
Right.
nights later. So 3 nights later, we had been having all this like activity go on that we couldn't explain. We had heard this like weird power knock thing at like 3 a.m. And this was the final night. We have already found what we think was a trackway that came right through Campbell. We were all gone. So this was the final night. I was kind of like the last person to turn in. Everybody had dispersed to their tents. There was one guy that had just gone into his tent when I was using this thermal imager that a friend of ours had. And it didn't have record capability, of course, right? Because we're looking for Bigfoot. So why would it have record capability? But it was like in the form of like a rifle scope. This is my first time using a thermal imager. I'd been using it on and off for like 3 nights, And, there's a lot of weird stuff that you see that looks exactly like Bigfoot when you look through one of those. And you have to focus on it and see what it is. And you end up walking over to it and you go, it's just a rock that was, hit by the sun and held a lot of heat. So it was the last night and I'm kind of panning over and I see what looks like a person. And I'm going, okay, I'm kind of waiting for it, just like everything else, to not be a person and it be a rock. But I did notice that it started to move a little bit. And I go, okay, well, is it someone in our camp? Is it, what could it be? It starts moving a little bit more, doing this kind of swaying motion. And then it starts to take a little bit of the step to its left. And that's when I knew, I put down the scope and it's just pitch black all the way out there. And I'm like, there's no way that any of my buddies got up and went up there to relieve themselves or something. It's just too far away. And I didn't see any headlamps go out there. And we kind of did this like waiting game. In the morning, I had told the guys, I said, I watched it for maybe 30 seconds. It was actually 2 minutes and just over 2 minutes that I had watched it, but it went by like that. I was kind of like paralyzed with fear. It was not this way I imagined a sighting going, As soon as I saw it, it was just standing there. And it looked like it was doing this thing where what I think it was doing is waiting for me to look away. It doesn't know I'm holding a thermal imager, but I'm looking in its general direction. And I think it was kind of standing still, waiting for me to turn. It looked like it was trying to go across the hillside to the left and just stopped. And I finally looked at it. There was a guy that was camping in his cot right in front of me. And I ended up like trying to wake him up to the point where I kicked him in the ribs. And he finally woke up. I just met this guy like 3 days ago. I finally kicked him in the ribs. He wakes up. He goes, "What's up?" I go, "Dude, I'm looking at this thing. I'm just like spilling like word vomit, trying to get myself together. I wish I could tell a tough guy story about how I ran over there and saw what it was. But I was kind of like paralyzed with fear, and I've never felt like that in my life. And there finally came this moment where it turned and just walked down, and I can clearly see its hand, go up, and I can see its leg bend over some ferns and step over. And then it went down this little hillside, and we can both hear it go crunch, 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 and walk away. And I tried to record it with my GoPro through the lens, and it's like between being paralyzed with fear, kind of, and like trying to line it up correctly, it was just like impossible. So it happened. I missed my opportunity to film one. I didn't see it that way. I thought it was just going to be a weekend out in the woods, looking for Bigfoot, not a weekend of finding Bigfoot. So
well, I think that's
story all these years later, trying to still film one.
That's an amazing encounter, though, and I know you didn't film it and you regret that, but that it's encounters like that fuel our passion and keep us going, and you have that, what you saw, you have it, let it motivate you to go find it, I think that's amazing. That's an amazing encounter. Like I would be fine with that for now, like having that kind of encounter. Also, so whenever someone does the study on how dangerous it is to camp with Tate, it is also apparently dangerous to be around Jonathan if there is a Bigfoot around, because you'll need full body like Kevlar.
Don't fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep around him. Oh my God, that killed me. it took everything I had to pay attention to the rest of the story because I was stuck on that. Like, I can just picture you like
Yeah,
kicking, you know.
I'm still
'Cause-
friends with the guy I kicked in the ribs, so still
That's
cool.
good.
Forgives me.
So Pedikov had a question, non-Bigfoot question for Jonathan. Favorite backpacking / hiking trip?
Oh man, it's probably going to be the one I did Mount Whitney in an overnight. I've done other ones, a few days in the Sierras, Nevadas, all over the Southern California mountains. I know those Southern California mountains of San Gabriel's very well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of places that people even haven't been in there that I've gotten to get into. But favorite one, I'd have to say, man, hiking Mount Whitney was just like a surreal experience. When you're like in your tent at 12,000 feet and you go to roll over and you just roll over in your tent and you're winded, absolutely winded.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then getting up to, the tallest peak in the lower 48. That was a nice one. That was a good one.
I couldn't imagine. I haven't hiked at that elevation. I don't think I would make it.
You even have elevation out there where you're at?
No, that's not the point. That's not
No,
the
it's not.
point. The point is, okay, that even if we did, I would still die. We have mountains ish.
Yeah. Long rolling mountains, right?
They're mountains. There's an elevation change there. Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
We have ridges.
That's good. I'm not hating. Every ecosystem, every terrain has its own challenges in itself. So I've met guys that have hiked Mount Whitney with no problem, but given up on the Appalachian Trail just because it's so disheartening.
Yeah.
There's elevation change, but there's no big to high elevation. So it's all different stuff.
Oh man, I used to dream about doing the AT, and now I'm like, I dream about doing a small version of that. Like, we had to lower our goals a little. But I'm hoping when my kids get bigger, we'll be doing that.
Yeah, get back to it. Meet a lot of good hikers out there.
Yeah, so I do like a whole presentation on getting your kids out into nature and training them up to be the next generation of Bigfoot researchers. And part of that is getting them out into nature. So we're actually going camping this weekend in Arkansas. I have a conference that I'm speaking at. And so if you are going to the Enola Arkansas Bigfoot Conference, I'll see you there, guys. Okay, so Tate had another question. What's your favorite part about camping at the PG film site?
Besides not dying. Besides not dying. You're at the PG film site. It's just like surreal place, And you've never been, right, Lauren? Haven't been?
No. I was supposed to meet up with Kip and go there last year or the year before, and I didn't make it. So
okay, well, you still got many years to go.
Next year.
Bring your kids
too. We'll go there. It's fine.
There you go. You skip Beachfoot. Don't worry about Beachfoot.
No, I had fun at Beachfoot. Kip was very welcoming, and he makes very strong drinks, I found out. So that was my introduction to Kip.
They're not strong to him.
Oh my God.
No. The Patterson-Gimlin film site, it's a really cool place because now, as you see, it's a total jungle. And if you go to like my Instagram page, one of my very first posts is these blend pictures that I did showing the film site today, exactly where Roger Patterson knelt. And I also show it, in 1967, and I kind of put those frames over top each other. And even though you see it's this like complete jungle, once you see those images overlaid, you see, oh my gosh, this is exactly that sandy, that sunny sandbar from 1967. It kind of comes to life when you're there. Yeah. Hard to explain that, but
I've seen it. I've seen the post that you made. It was phenomenal because it's.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I mean, it's really good because a lot of us can't make it there, and a lot of us, when you mention the PG film site, we picture, just rocks and white dirt and a bank and clear, and you posted that, and it's completely different, but you can still see where it used to be.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the work that the Bluff Creek project guys did. I mean, it took them years to finally come to a consensus on where the film site is, but they'll take you there. And like I had Rowdy Kelly, he's like probably the best one at explaining the film site. If you guys, any way you get a chance to go out with Rowdy Kelly to the PG film site, go. It shows you all the stumps, shows you all the trees in the background. There's even that log on the floor in front of Patty with the little snag in it. That's still
Yeah.
there. Everything's still there. Only it looks like a jungle.
Yeah. It's crazy how much it's nature, of course, but how much an area can change. From like my mom's had different sightings and she's gone back to those areas and it looks nothing like that anymore. All right, hold on. There was another question. Matthew would like to know, Jonathan, do you have a consistent research area?
I've been plugging away at this place here in Idaho. I live in Boise, Idaho, and the place that I go to is about 2 hours away from me. So it's not a place that I can get to all the time, but I do get there I like to say, well, what was I was there maybe 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go up again here this upcoming week, and I'm going to try to get a couple overnights in before the snow comes. But it's a place just north of Boise, up in the Boise National Forest up there. And there's been, 3 or 4 pretty good BFRO reports. If you follow the Bigfoot Mapping Project, if you have that app, it's such a great app. And there's a couple new reports on there in this particular area. So that's kind of reassuring that feel like I'm looking in the right area. And when Tate, me and Ron went up there last year, we were kind of doing knocks all night and just kind of this moment we were just talking. We just heard this clear, baseball bat to the tree, classic knock type that you heard, and we recorded it. That's on Tate's channel. It's in his Idaho episode. I don't have my episode up yet. Hopefully before the end of the year I will. But we heard this super clear knock, and while not saying it was Bigfoot, but what else does a loud, clear knock? That's just it's very interesting. We walked down that road to try to find what it was. This was late at night, maybe, I don't know, around midnight, and we didn't see anything. We had a bear come through early in the morning, but that was about it. But yeah, I keep focusing on this particular place in Idaho, and I'm going to keep, I have a few videos in the can, actually, of stuff that I'm going to put out.
That's amazing. Idaho, we drove through Idaho to go to Washington when I was doing the Medellin Falls conference and then going to Beachfoot, and I could not believe how beautiful it was there, but also how squatchy. Like, I just kept saying, it's so squatchy here. It's so squatchy. Like, I was like a little kid in my seat.
You probably passed through the northern side. Northern,
we did,
right?
Yeah,
North Idaho and South Idaho, completely different. South Idaho has more of like a desert terrain. And it's funny, if you go all the way to the south, there's these big canyon mountains that look like something out of Star Wars, Yeah. And there is a gentleman that sent some pictures to a friend of mine that I also have, that he's claiming that he's regularly seeing these things. So we're also going to get out there very soon. This is a most recent development, but
I've heard a lot of reports of desert sightings of Bigfoot, as much as you may not think that that's a thing. I don't, and people are like, what do you think about that? I'm like, cave systems, canyons, ravines. Like, I mean,
it's almost easier in these mountains. I would think it's almost easier for them to hide in those like desert mountains that are inaccessible to most of us, as opposed to these, forest mountains. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, most sane humans do not venture out into desert areas too far, because, it's harder to survive out there. So if they have a consistent food source, water source, all of that, like, why would we go out there? That would be a good place. I concur. All right, last question from Tate Hieronymus. I don't know if you know him. He's kind of a crazy kid. All right. He says, Jonathan, what was it like to go to Jeff Meldrum's lab?
Oh, it was great. I actually went there with them. But we took a look at those same hairs that we looked at with Cliff Brackman, and we went over there, and it was so cool because you know how you see all these people online and on TV and stuff, and you meet them in person, and
they're
maybe they're not different. The person you expected.
Yeah.
Dr. Meldrum is the opposite. Like, I thought maybe, I was like, I don't want to waste his time. Maybe we'll look at these hairs real quick. Like, after about like 5 minutes, I realized that this guy is he's just so excited to talk about Bigfoot with fellow like Bigfoot enthusiasts. Only his intelligence level and amount of research is way, way beyond ours.
Right.
But we were there. I think he was like, I got to go over to the smoke. I got to leave tomorrow early morning to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference last year. And
Yeah.
so he's like, we'll meet for about an hour. We were there for like 3 hours. And even at that, we were still cutting it short. But it was so cool because I got to ask a few questions. I'm an MRI tech, so anatomy, something I have to know and something I'm interested in. Something that when I'm scanning people's feet and legs, maybe I'm looking at certain anomalies and kind of, remembering certain things, watching how they walk, and it's funny you see some of these pathologies translate into Bigfoot stuff like wrinklefoot, for example, and stuff like that, But we went over a few things like that, and I had a few questions about how that mid-tarsal break actually worked with the ligaments and all that, and he gave me a much more detailed explanation than what's in his book and what you see on TV.
Amazing.
And he's like so happy to do it.
Yeah.
Total nice guy. It was a great time.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you could bend his ear on that and kind of get some answers that I'm sure would have been, bothering you a little bit. And that's phenomenal. I love that. I love that for you. I love that for you.
Awesome.
I get it. I have a obsession with infrasound. And so when I got Doug Hychek on the podcast and I just nerded out, I just went I'm sorry if you guys all wanted to hear about anything else Doug had to talk about. That's not what this show is about. This show is about infrasound. So I get it.
Which is pretty cool. The recent study that came out, right, about the gorillas being able to use infrasound. Like now we know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So Shane Carpenter out of Missouri, he actually, you should just listen to that pod. I don't know if you've caught that podcast on my podcast with him, but he has some good stuff going with the infrasound thing. He has a way to capture it and a way to examine it. And he's like, so if we could just know when it's happening. And I'm like, well, I can tell you when it's happening because it happens to me all the time. And I can tell you when I feel it. And then you can just do your thing and tell me what the heck it is. Like, let's do this. So, anyway, that's my nerd out is infrasound. So
it's cool nerd out. I dig it.
Tate Hieronymus. Hieronymus Anonymous. Thank you, Tate, for being here tonight. Really appreciate your support and patronage. Thank you, Todd, and everyone else for being here also. Yes, so some primate experts recently stated that they believe that male gorilla produce infrasound that affects female gorilla. Pretty amazing.
That's how they spit game.
Yeah, basically. Tate. So,
the Tate Anonymous show.
That being said,
featuring Jonathan.
Well, you didn't wear your sunglasses, so this is
I know, my fault.
This is your punishment. It's Tate. So with that, thank you so much for coming on tonight. You have been a fantastic guest, and I definitely really want to have you back on because I feel like we kind of barely scraped the surface, and I have a lot more questions. So I would love to have you back on. So hopefully we can get that set up before next year because I know it took us a while to get this one going. And don't be a surface pooper like Tate. That is my advice.
There you go. Yes. The story made it into the podcast. Good.
Please bury your poop.
That is all. Everyone bury your poop. Take a shovel with you to the woods. Don't take a bucket with a bag on it and leave it there all weekend either. Take the shovel. Dig it.
Stop.
Go in the hole.
Really? Tate, you upped your game somehow? Tate.
Oh, we'll leave it at that.
Oh my gosh. So we need to have a private after hours show for anyone that wants to hear about the adventures of Tate Hieronymus. And like we said, don't be a surface pooper. Don't
an environmental monster. No, I think that he actually fertilized the land. If you think about it, there was a little pine tree growing right where last time I went up there.
He literally went in the middle of the road because he's also I don't even.
Watch
I'm
your
trying to
step.
think of
Watch your step
which
when you can.
animals
Hey,
go in the middle of the road, like geese. Tate, you're a goose? I don't know. Like, anyways, okay. So thank you all for coming on tonight. Thank you for supporting my amazing guest, Jonathan Easley. Please go support him by going to his YouTube, Western Bigfoot Exploration, subscribing, liking, ringing that notification bell, because he puts out videos probably way more often than I do. So go check out his videos. Thank you for listening to the show. Stay safe